Hey guys, welcome back to Joy Brush. Today I want to show you how to paint a bunny. So first, let's get our brushes out. We'll be using only 2 brushes today. The first brush I want you to get is 大写意. It's a hard hair brush. We'll be using this brush to create the outline of our bunny. The second brush I want you to get is 加大白云, extra large 白云. This is a soft hair brush. We'll be using a soft hair brush to create the shape of the bunny. And if you spread it out, you could create the fur of the bunny. So one thing I want you to do starting from now on, before you paint, you need to think of which brushes you want to use. So how do we think like that? The first thing you could do is to think of the most basic elements of a painting. In any painting, we need to think of line, shape, form, and texture. So in this case, we'll be thinking of how to create the line, the outline of a bunny. And what kind of shape are we going to be creating when we paint a bunny? Are we going to be creating any texture? For instance, texture of bunny fur, texture of a rock next to the bunny. What kind of texture are we going to be creating? Thinking through the 4 elements, line, shape, form, and texture of a painting will help you determine which brushes you need for your painting. Alright, let's get started. Let's paint our bunny. So first of all, we're gonna paint the eyeball of the bunny. I want you to get your hard hair brush out, 大写意. We're gonna get some color. First color I want you to use is yellow. We're gonna build a gradient. Because if you think about the eyeball is 3D, so we don't want it to be just one color. A lot of times Chinese painting or any ink painting in the past, from long time ago, they are very flat. You don't really see any shadow. So nowadays, when you look at Chinese painting, a lot of times you see some modification. So be brave and create your own style. It's very important that you explore and create your own style. So now when you look at my brush, I have a gradient of water, yellow, and orange. Let's create the eyeball. So the eyeball, I'm gonna start from here. Make sure you leave enough space to paint the rest of the bunny. So I'm gonna picture in my head, here will be the head of the bunny, and then here will be the body and tail and so on. So the eyeball will be somewhere around here. So I want you to use the tip of your brush and gradually think of the shape and push it down, and then lift it up. So that's one side. I'm gonna create another side. So again, use the tip of your brush, push it down to create the shape, and then lift it up towards the end. Lift up. Alright, so here's the eyeball. We're gonna continue and we're gonna paint the ear. So let's wash our brush, make sure it's clean. The ear, I'll be using the same brush. So at any time if your brush is too wet, you should get a piece of rice paper and just kind of tap away the extra water. Alright, so I'm gonna get some black ink just on the tip of the brush. I'm gonna do the year. So again, think about where the year is gonna be. I'm gonna move my paper. The year is gonna be somewhere here. Alright, so this one, I want you to just outline the year. So we're gonna create a rather smooth outline. And then towards the end, I want you to push it down because here we'll be creating the head. Right. So think of the shape. I'm gonna get a little more black ink and continue. Think of the shape of the bunny. Right? Another ear. So now I'm gonna outline the nose. So I'll make sure it's a little more dry. I'm gonna outline the nose. So take your time to picture your painting before you actually paint, because again, we don't really have any eraser here. So let's paint the mouth. I want to brush out a little first so it's not too stiff. Alright, I'm gonna finish off the other ear. Notice this side is lighter. I'm gonna use a thinner line to represent how thin the ear is. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get a little more black ink. And keep your brush rather wet because we're gonna be creating shapes. So when you create outline, you wanna make sure your brush is not too wet so it won't melt away. But now I'm gonna be creating the shape of the head. So I wanna make sure it's a little wet. Again, just think of the overall shape of your bunny. I'm not really following a picture, so I'm just really picturing everything in my head right now. Okay. It's okay to be a little more expressive, and you can also fan your brush a little more. Fan your brush a little more and brush out some fur. I'm gonna brush out some fur here to form the neck. And while the eyeball is not so dry, I'm gonna go ahead and create the eyeball. So I'll be using black ink to create the eyeball. Alright, and then I'm gonna be doing a little bit of detail around the eye. So I'll be using black ink to outline around the orange. The next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna paint the body. So we'll be using a rather soft hair brush. So we'll be using the 大白云. I'm gonna get some water. And the body, I want you to get a little bit of brown. We're gonna get a little bit of brown and we're gonna mix the brown with our ink and create this beautiful gradient on our bunny. So let's take a look at our brush. As you can see, I have a gradient. I have water, brown, and black ink. So I'm gonna again think of the shape of my bunny. Is it standing? Is it sitting? So think of the shape, picture it in your head first, and then go for it. All right, so I'm gonna start from here, I think. I got my mental picture already. So it's almost like painting a round circle. As you can see, I'm gonna end it here because this is the leg. Okay, I'm gonna get a little bit of water because my brush is a little dry. I'm gonna kind of finish off the shape here. Okay, so here's the body. Let's paint a little tail. I'll get a little bit of brown and a little bit of black ink. So again, I have a little gradient going on my brush. The tail, I'll just use a little round circle to represent the tail. Somewhere around here. Okay. And the last thing we're gonna do on a bunny is the feet and the little hand. So I'm gonna get a little bit of light ink, not too dark. And make sure your brush is not too wet either because we're gonna be creating an outline now. So again, picture in your head, how do you want the hand? So I think I'm gonna start from here. Kind of curl it up a little bit. The bunny hand is not too long. It's always good to take a look at the photo reference first before you paint. Right now, I'm not using any photo reference. All right, so that's the hand. And we're gonna create the leg, the feet, somewhere around here. The last thing I want to do is to create a little bit of texture on our bunny. So I want you to wash your brush and get a piece of rice paper out. Fan your brush on the rice paper. Spread it out and get some black ink. Notice my brush is really dry at the moment. There's almost no water. So I'm gonna get some black ink. Make sure it's spread out. If you find your brush too wet, then you could again tap the ink away. So right now you can see it's actually quite dry. I'm gonna be creating some texture on here. It's not completely dry yet, so this is the perfect moment. Because we don't want the dots to kind of jump out on our painting. We want it to kind of melt together with the rest of the painting. So I'm kind of just tapping out some texture here. You can also use it to create some fur. So I'm gonna lightly brush out some fur on the head as well. Even on here, a little bit here. So here, just lightly. You know, if you can't do it the first time, you can always practice on a piece of paper. Just lightly brush it out. Lightly brush out some fur. Okay. And the last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna use the same brush to create some whiskers. The whiskers are fairly thin, so if you find this brush a little bit too thick, you can actually get another brush out. Let me show you. It's the Sumi-e. So I have it here. So we're gonna use actually an extra brush. This one is 大描笔. This is a very small brush. We could use it to create fine lines. So we'll be using this brush to create the whisker of the bunny. So I got some black ink. I'm gonna draw it out from around the nose. Create some whisker. Maybe one more around here. All right. So one last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna create a highlight in the eyeball. So I want you to get a thicker tubed Chinese paint. So this one is not open yet. You can see this one is called Tai Bai. So I'm gonna get a little bit of white out. And I will create a highlight somewhere around here. Maybe another little dot right here. So our bunny is almost done. The last thing we're gonna do, we're gonna add in a little bit of white on the white area. So I got some white on my brush. I'm gonna fill in some white. Not the whole thing, you wanna leave a little space. I kind of create a little 3D effect here. So don't fill it in, leave a little empty space. You want to create a little three-dimensional 3D effect. It can also melt into the ink. Whatever looks beautiful to you. Alright. Okay, a little bit on the belly. A little bit on the feet. And right around here and here, I want to create a little pink. So I still got some white on my brush, And I'm gonna use a little bit of red, not too much, because right now we're trying to create a pink color. A little bit of red. I'm gonna also add it to the edge of the ear. Just give it a little bit of pink, just on the edge. Okay, and somewhere around the nose, just a little hint of red. Okay, and the last thing to do, I'm gonna do a little bit of pour more just to represent the grass. So I'll get a little yellow and some green to create a gradient effect on my brush, and some dark green. So I just want to tap out a little bit of grass. Sometimes it looks beautiful to have a white space. You don't have to fill in your painting. It's good to leave out some space. And I'm also gonna add in some yellow. Gonna do a little pour more, just to represent the sunlight. So the brush itself is really wet, so I'm just gonna drip it out. A little bit of pour more to represent the sunlight, and maybe a little flower here. Whatever looks beautiful to you. Alright, I think our bunny painting is done. Thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something here. I hope to see you next time on Joy Brush. Until then. Alright, so the bunny is done. I just want to zoom in and show you some of the gradient that we created, some of the texture we created with the wet on wet effect. While the first layer is still wet, we added on texture. So you can see all the details, it kind of melt together once your painting is dry.